And a very good afternoon. It's Wednesday, hump day, as we call it here at the Zone. Wednesday, right in between the week, between the days in the week. Monday, Tuesday, kind of climbing up that mountain. Get to Wednesday, you're at the peak. And then from now on, it's good sailing down to the weekend. So, welcome to the show. You're coming to you live. We're in the Eastern time zone. And no matter what time zone you happen to be in, welcome to the show, whatever you're doing, whether it's listening to the podcast later in the day or listening to us live on the I-95 Sports and Entertainment Network, or again, one of those podcast platforms such as Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Amazon Music, you name it. We're on most of the major podcasts as well. We're here every day at 12 noon Eastern Time. Saturday and Sunday, we're here at 11 a.m. Weekdays, noon. Saturday and Sunday, 11 a.m. Eastern Time in both situations. So welcome to the show. We got a full show today. Yes, we're going to be talking about 3 baseball games that are on tap again, like we normally do. We have 3 games to take a look at and see where the line movement is going, as well as the direction that the pros are going in them as well. So we're going to be looking at the White Sox and the Reds, the Astros and the Yankees, and the Toronto Jays against Oakland. Those are the games we're going to be looking at. So if you're interested in betting any of those games, even before the show started, you were thinking about it, we'll give you some information that might help you in one direction or another. We're also going to be talking about NFL futures as far as Mr. Rodgers is concerned. You know, we normally don't get involved in all this banter that's going on with various players and teams. You know, you listen to sports radio, all you hear about is Rodgers all week long now that the draft is passed, you know. But when it starts to affect us in our betting patterns, in our betting situations, that is the time when we got to take a look at it and say, hey, wait a minute, let's take a close look and see how it affects us as far as how we decide who we're going to be betting on. So we're going to go into that. We'll show you some odds changes that have happened because he's been kind of wishy-washy. I'm going here, I'm going there, I'm staying, I'm going, I'm coming. You know, we went through this with the Mariners, okay? Well, looks like we're going to be going through it again for a while as well. So we'll take a look into that. And if we do have time, we're going to be talking about some National Hockey League stuff. We're talking about, as far as injuries are concerned, how should you be looking at injuries in your calculations as you're trying to pick your selections in the National Hockey League. So let's take that first step. We always do. We take a look at what happened yesterday. As far as sports are concerned, as far as betting was concerned, that's what we're most interested in. And I know you know the scores. You're probably well aware of everything that happened, except that, you know, we're trying to keep you up to date as to, you know, who were the underdogs, who were the favorites. This way you have an idea as to which direction some trends are going. So looking at the National Hockey League to start with, the favorites went 3-2 yesterday. You had 2 upsets. The Devils, a plus 210 on the money line against the Bruins, and the Sabres, a plus 210 against the Islanders. The Hurricanes, the Penguins, and the Oilers, they all covered on the puck line as well at 1.5. The overs went 4-1, but the unders, they still lead 392 to 378. That's almost 51%. Meanwhile, the first period unders, again, for the new listeners, first period unders are very similar to betting on the first half of a football game, let's say. You're just betting that the over-under in the first period of play. It went 3-2 yesterday, and the lead is still with the unders at 51, just a little over 51%. So that's the story of the National Hockey League. And as far as the NBA is concerned, favorites, whoa, they were doing so well yesterday, 6-0 straight up. You had the Mavericks and the Heat closing as a pick 'em as well, but only 3-3 against the spread. 6-0 straight up. Doesn't matter to us. We're more interested in against the spread. They split 3-3. The Raptors up at 11.5-point dogs against the Clippers. The Pistons were 4-point dogs against the Hornets, and the Thunder plus 5.5 points against the Kings. They all covered, even though they did lose their games, okay? They lost, but they covered. So the favorites still lead. They're at almost 51% so far this season, with 13 pick'ems in there as well. The unders, well, they went 5-2 yesterday, but the overs still lead a little over 50%. And we talked about this over the past 3 or 4 days, last week as well for a few minutes, how difficult it is betting these games in the NBA. You don't know who's tanking right now, okay? I mean, you probably have a pretty good idea as who it is, but you're not certain for sure. You don't know who's going to be playing, okay? That's why we kind of stay away from the NBA. I get emails all the time saying, or I talk to people, they say, when are you going to talk about the NBA? You know, I like betting the NBA. What's the story there? And I say, hey, look, it's very, very tough right now betting on the NBA. Very tough because of these different situations. So we're staying away from, don't want to try to lead you down that path if we can avoid it. We're here to try to help you to be a better handicapper, but also to help you to be in the profit column once the season comes to an end. So just kind of stay away. Maybe make a token bet if you like something, you know, kind of go in that direction. But I guarantee you, and I promise you, once the playoffs begin and they're into it for real, we're going to be watching it very, very closely. Meanwhile, in Major League Baseball, the underdogs went 10-6 yesterday. Barking dogs, they certainly were, including the Cubs at a plus 155 and a plus 205 in a home sweep against the Dodgers. Both games plus 155, plus 205, plus the Giants at a plus 115, and the Rockies at a plus 140 in their split as well. The favorites' lead kind of slipped down a little bit, 230 to 205, with 16 games being a pick'em. The overs won 11-5, as the unders lead also slipped down to 50.5%. So the dogs were barking loud and clear yesterday as far as baseball was concerned, okay? Didn't do too bad in the NBA, but like we said, all season long, if you've been betting hockey and you've been betting the favorites, you've been doing very, very well. This is just a very unusual season where the favorites, they just totally dominate the situation. So let's take our first break. And like we always say, we take 3 breaks within the show. Each one is of about a minute, minute and a half duration, somewhere in there. And just because of that, we will be back in 1 minute. And welcome back. Welcome back to the Sports Wagering Zone. I'm Chris Pardo coming to you live from Charlotte, North Carolina. We're on the I-95 Sports and Entertainment Network. We're also podcasting on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, you name it. Amazon Music. We're just about everywhere. Very easy to get a hold of us in that situation. So we're going to talk about baseball. We have 3 games on tap for today that we're talking about. And of course, one of them is going to be an afternoon game. It's about 12:35 Eastern time. The White Sox against the Reds. So let's get right down to that one so that if you guys on the East Coast or wherever you are want to bet this game, we'll give you the information that we have. Because the White Sox dominated the Reds 9-0 in Tuesday's game. It's an interleague game, by the way. It's their series opener. They won that game easily, plus 100 as a road dog. The pros got it wrong because they steamed the Reds from being a plus 105. They flipped it to be a minus 110. So you see, they are wrong occasionally as well. Now, in this early afternoon rematch, the White Sox hand the ball to lefty Dallas Keuchel. He's 1-1 with a 4.65 ERA. The Reds come back with their ace, Sonny Gray, but he's 0-2 so far this season with a 5.93 ERA. Now, as we look at the line, it opened with the Reds listed as a modest 120, minus 120, as a home favorite. The White Sox are a plus 110 road dog. Now, the public sees the White Sox with a superior one-loss record. It's obvious, okay? And they're happy to grab the plus money with Chicago. However, despite all this action going in that direction, the line has actually moved further towards Cincinnati, going from a minus 120 to a minus 127 on the money line. What this means, the pros are fading the trendy dog. That's the contrarian movement towards Cincinnati, and the pros are laying the minus price, and they're backing Gray and the team they're looking at, and that is the Cincinnati Reds. Now, the interleague favorites with a line move in their favor, they're at 59% so far this season. Remember, line movement in this interleague play, okay, overall is 60%. So we give you this game real early, quick. If you want to go out and make a bet on it, if you're looking in that direction, this is the story on it. And that's why we moved from 4 o'clock down to 12 o'clock to try to take these games into consideration. But of course, yesterday we talked about a possibility of a newsletter, if that's what you want to call it, is that you guys that are interested in early betting, you want the early lines, you're working on them. Maybe you have a job during the day and you can't listen to the show, and then you come back later on in the day, you hear it, you say, oh, I would have bet that if I would have known it, okay? So we're going to try, and we've been talking about it, got a great response yesterday in the email. I mean, we were just flooded with emails on this idea of a newsletter where we would send to you, okay, via email every morning, early in the morning, the picks that the pros are on, or as far as the line movement is concerned. So if you're interested in that as well, we mentioned it yesterday. We had a tremendous feedback on it. Simply send an email and send it to the Sports Wagering Zone at gmail.com. The Sports Wagering Zone at gmail.com. This way, if you were interested in this White Sox Reds game, for instance, you would have already known about it by 8 o'clock Eastern time. So this we're working on. We're going to try to put it all together, but it's important that we know that there are enough people that are interested in getting involved in this situation. And of course, as we develop it, if we do, we'll go on, and there are other things that we can do off of it to try to help you to become a better handicapper. And by doing that, make a better out of you, okay? This way, we want you to be in the plus column at the end of each season, whether it's the NFL season, Major League Baseball, NBA, hockey, whatever it is you're betting, okay? We're going to be covering it real close giving you all the information quickly, and especially when it comes down to football time, because you'll know the line movement, because we're going to follow it all week long for you. This way you don't have to do anything with it. We're going to pick the 3 or 4 best line movements, see which direction they're going along with the pros, and let you know early enough about it so that you can start doing your homework, putting it together. By game time, you'll have all the information you'll need to make your final bet. So once again, if you're interested in getting involved, just simply send us an email, and that email goes to the Sports Wagering Zone. You got to put the in there. The Sports Wagering Zone at gmail.com. And we'll be happy to see what kind of response. I'll tell you, if it's anything like we had yesterday, we're already starting to think about how we can implement this situation and try to get it started as soon as we can. So once again, that email address is the Sports Wagering Zone at gmail.com. We have 2 more games to take a look at. We got the Astros against the Yankees and the Blue Jays against the A's. Those are on for this evening. So why don't we take that second break, get that out of the way, and when we come back, we'll cover those 3 games, and we'll kind of take a look at the NFL and see how all this news about Mr. Rodgers is affecting the odds, which affects us. So let's take that break. We'll be back in the zone right after this. And welcome back. You're back in the Sports Wagering Zone. I'm Chris Pardo. Thank you very much for listening. We're coming to you live right here in Charlotte, North Carolina, the I-95 Sports and Entertainment Network. For our friends out in Colorado, we're on Mile High Radio. That's right, because it's the Mile High City, Mile High area, whatever you want to call it, okay? So we're there, milehighradio.com is where you can hear us there. And, of course, we're also on Blackjack Television as well. So thank you very much for listening. So let's get down back to business. We covered the first game, trying to give you enough time to get in there and make that bet if you're thinking about it. The White Sox against the Reds, the pros on that particular game, along with the various indices, say take the Cincinnati Reds. Meanwhile, at 7:05 Eastern Time, you got the Houston Astros 15-14 playing the New York Yankees with an identical record, 15-14. You know, the Yankees took last night's series opener 7-3, and they were a minus 120 home favorite. That's very, very low for a team with all the chutzpah, whatever you want to call it, all the hype that the Yankees get all the time, okay? I grew up in the New York metropolitan area, so I know all about hype and the New York Yankees, okay? Minus 120. That was a pretty good bet at that particular number. Now, after a brutal start to the season, which was really had New Yorkers reeling, they've now won 4 straight games. They're 6-1 over their last 7 games. Now, in tonight's rematch, the Astros come out with Luis Garcia. He's 0-3 with a 2.7 ERA, while the Yankees come back with their lefty, Jordan Montgomery. He's 1-1 with a 4.39 ERA. Now, looking at the line, it opened with the Yankees listed as a minus 125 home favorite on the money line. Houston, a plus 115 road dog. Now, the pros are riding the hot hand, and they're backing the Yankees. We've seen New York get steamed up to 130 from 125 to minus 130. Now, some of the shops, as I looked at before we went on the air, were at minus 135 as well. Now, keep in mind, the shops I'm talking about are the shops in Las Vegas, the ones in your particular section of the country, wherever, whatever state you're in, where you're making your bets. It may be slightly different. In New York, it may even be higher, okay? The Yankees have value because they're a non-division favorite, and they have a line move in their favor, going from 125 to 130. Now, we could also be looking at another high-scoring game tonight, like last night's 7-3 score. The total for tonight is 9, with a minus 120 juice to the over on this particular game. Now, as we look at the weather, and we always tell you, check the weather in baseball, very important. It calls for mid-60s, 10-mile-per-hour winds out to right center. Now, the Astros are 17-12 to the over so far this season. The Yankees, on the other hand, are 18-12 to the under. So you have a total of 9. You got the wind blowing out. You're getting juice put on to the over as well. The pros in this particular situation on the over, and of course they're on the New York Yankees. The other game on for tonight is the Toronto Blue Jays against the Oakland Athletics. The Blue Jays are even at 14-14. The A's at 19-12. So the A's, they've taken the first 2 games of this 4-game series. They won the opener 5-4. In that game, they were minus 118 on the money line as favorites. And then they won again 4-1 last night, a little higher, minus 120 as a favorite. Now, in tonight's 3rd game, the Blue Jays start lefty Robbie Ray. He's 1-1 with a 2.7 ERA. And the A's come out with Chris Bassett. He's 2-2 with a 3.93 ERA. Now, as we look at the line in this game, it opened with Oakland listed as a short minus 115 home favorite. The Jays were a plus 105 road dog. Now, in this particular game, because the numbers are so close, the public is kind of split. They don't know who to take. The casual bettors, the recreational bettors, they like Oakland. But they also feel like, the Jays are due. Okay, you know that word? Something is due. Okay, gambler's fallacy. Something is due for a victory, especially with their exciting young lineup of hitters. But the pros are going back to the well with the A's, as we've seen the line go up from minus 115, minus 120, and some of the books, like I said earlier, even are up to minus 125. Now, one reason to lean towards Oakland here is their dominance against left-handed starting pitchers. This year so far, the A's are 9-3. 9-3 against lefties. The A's are 14-6 as a favorite and 11-8 if they're at home. The Jays are 7-10 on the road. Jays have been doing very, very well at home. They're not such a good road situation as right now. So in this game, the pros are on the Oakland Athletics. So just to run down the 3 games we have on tap for today. In the first game, which should be starting about 12:35 or so, Cincinnati Reds against the Chicago White Sox, the pros are on the Reds, Cincinnati Reds. At 7:05, the Astros and the Yankees. The pros are on the Yankees. And, of course, Toronto against Oakland. The pros are on Oakland in that game as well. So that's the story as far as baseball is concerned. I'm kind of glad we switched to this 12 o'clock time slot because it gave us an opportunity to finally do an earlier game so that you, if you're thinking of betting any of that game, get a little more information that help you to get along. Otherwise, you would not have heard about it. And of course, if you happen to pick, let's say you were betting that game and you picked the wrong one, okay? Later on in the day, you hear the score, you say, and then you listen to the show because you're listening to a podcast later on in the day, game's over, whatever, the game's already started. And then all of a sudden you say, wow, if I would have listened to the show, because I wasn't sure. I'm not sure which one of those two I would have played. And if I would have heard that the pros were on this game, I would have gone that way. So we're kind of glad we're able to do that this time. It was amazing because once we moved to 12 noon, for the first 4 days, there were no day games. They were all at night. Meanwhile, going into that week, there were like 2 or 3 games a day that were early games. So anyway, we try our best. We'll try to make everything as easy for you as possible in your handicapping strategies and also trying to help you to get ahead as well. So that's the story with the baseball games, and we'll be taking our final break. When we come back, we're going to take a look at the NFL futures, especially as the effect that has been had by our good friend, Mr. Rodgers, over there in Green Bay. So we'll take a look at that right after this final message. And welcome back. You're back in the sports wagering zone. I'm Chris Pardo, coming to you live from Charlotte, North Carolina, right here on the I-95 Sports and Entertainment Network, as well as podcasting on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Spreaker, most of the major podcasts as well. So let's take a quick look at Aaron Rodgers. We've been listening to all the squawk, all of the hype going on all week long. That's all the sports talk people can talk about. And I watch those shows too. I try to see if I could get some bit of information that may be of some help, but generally it's just bantering, going back and forth. Well, I think it's this and I think it's that. Well, here's this thing that we're looking at right now, because now it affects us. Normally, we don't talk about things like this, okay? But because it's going to affect our betting patterns, our betting situations, has to come to our attention. We have to look at it. So for the second year in a row, Rodgers, once again, he's in the spotlight. Okay. First day of the draft, just before the draft started, there he goes. He starts talking about what may happen. Last year, the Packers quarterback was kind of standing on the sideline. Didn't say much. But this time, oh boy, he really had to instigate the drama so far in football. As we start, the draft is all about the teams and how they improve by adding, this new young talent. And yet, despite all of the fist bumps, the high fives, the media hype, nothing that happened over the 3 days and 7 rounds moved Super Bowl odds or regular season totals. Now, the most significant news for us as bettors stemmed from the rumors of a potential trade involving Mr. Rodgers, a quarterback. It was reported on Thursday, okay, a week ago, that Rodgers wants out of Green Bay. He picked three teams he liked: the Broncos, the 49ers, the Raiders. That was part of his wish list of new teams. So what happens? Right away, the public jumps in on one team. They triggered a shakeup on the Super Bowl odds board at BetMGM very quickly. The Broncos odds adjusted from 66 to 16 to 1. Okay, you had a 50-point drop, 66 to 16 to 1. But hold on a minute. A Rodgers to Denver deal, it's far from being done. Okay, so look at it this way. The problem, the battle between Rodgers and the rest of the management of Green Bay has been going on for a whole year. The relationship might end with Rodgers retiring early, hosting Jeopardy like he's talking about, or it could end with a blockbuster trade to the Broncos. It could go either way. BetMGM is holding the Packers at 12 to 1 odds until there's some answer. That's the smart thing to do. These guys that make up these lines are involved in it. They're not stupid. They don't go for the hype. They don't fall for it. That's the big difference between the pro bettors and the casual recreational bettors. All those new bettors that have come in, 27 states now have legalized betting. Do you know how many millions of new bettors have come on board? People that probably never bet a game in their lives, or just an occasional bet here and there. Maybe they're on a trip to Las Vegas on their honeymoon or a vacation, so they place a few bets, or maybe they'll bet some bets with some friends or relatives. But generally speaking, all these people came in and listened to all this hype, jumped on the bandwagon to get the Broncos. Now, assessing draft classes for the 32 teams, you know what? That's a subjective exercise. I mean, I look at it one way. I think the Giants are going to be in the playoffs. You may look at it and say, what? The Giants in the playoffs? It's going to be the Cowboys in Washington. You know, we have difference of opinion on those kind of things. And neither one of us will be proven right or wrong until it actually happens. Okay? You can't assign grades. It's a debate in situation, and it's good for fun and entertainment purposes. But you know what? There were several teams that did come out of the weekend as winners. Super Bowl contenders or not, these 5 teams have improved, and they got a great shot of exceeding their win totals that they were originally projected at. Now, Chicago Bears comes right to the top of the list, okay? Ryan Pace, their general manager, and Matt Nagy, their coach, they really screwed up things in Chicago, according to most things you read about. They traded up 9 spots in the first round. They grabbed Justin Fields at number 11. In the second round, the Bears addressed a major need. They found value by taking 6'6", 300-pound offensive tackle Tevin Jenkins, who was projected to go in the first round. They got a bargain there. So if you go back 2 months, I think we all would have said Fields would go in the top 5. DraftKings Sportsbook Director John Avello says the Bears need a quarterback. Is Fields the right guy? He says, I don't know, but I think Fields works for the Bears. Now, because of Rodgers' uncertain status, BetMGM took down the win totals for all NFC North teams. DraftKings opened the Bears with a win total of 7. Now, if you assume the veteran Andy Dalton will still open the season as the starter, not much change is going to happen. However, look at it this way. If Fields does come out, Chicago might soon have a better quarterback than Green Bay, okay, if he happens to retire. Meanwhile, so looking at the Bears, possibility, there's a chance. And look at the Chargers. The pro bettors were hitting the Chargers Super Bowl odds. They were at 40 to 1 and playing their win total over 9 even before the draft. The Chargers helped their cause because they got their offensive tackle, Rashawn Slater from Notre Dame. He can protect Justin Herbert's blind side. Okay, they got him in the first round. Florida State cornerback Asante Samuel Jr. filled the need in the second round. They're the second best team in Los Angeles, and it's trending in the right direction. So look at the Chargers. The New York Jets. A lot depends here. The development of Zach Wilson is a rookie, but the Jets have surrounded him as opposed to what they did before with some offensive linemen. Elijah Vera Tucker, speedy slot receiver Elijah Moore. Okay, running back Michael Carter. They got these guys in the early rounds. So after they finished 2-14 last year, they got an overhaul of the coaching staff. The Jets' win total now is 6.5 this season, when they could be the most improved team in the league once it gets going. And then finally, we got the Carolina Panthers. Coach Matt Rule. He started rebuilding the defense last year, if you remember, okay? Now he's going to the offense. He's a patient man. He's taking his time. He earned high marks from most analysts for his 5 picks in the first 4 rounds. Picked up a corner, J.C. Horn, one of the top ones. LSU receiver, Terrace Marshall Jr. Offensive tackle, Brady Christensen. Notre Dame tight end, Tommy Tremble. Oklahoma State running back, Chubba Hubbard. Okay, I thought Carolina had a really good draft. Okay, it's been positive. Okay, they pick up Sam Darnold. The Panthers do quarterback, and they have that possibility of really improving. And we got a few more minutes. Let's get the New England Patriots out of the way as well. They're also a good choice as well because they have Mac Jones. He didn't go to number 3 overall to San Francisco as everybody seemed to think, okay? Slipped all the way to New England at number 15. They just sat back and said, hey, we're going to get one of these 2 guys. Jones will likely sit behind Newton, the first part of the season anyway, but it appears that Jones is the future of the team. The Patriots were fortunate to get Christian Barmore, a defensive tackle, in the second round, okay? I think Mac Jones is a tremendous pick for the Patriots. I really do. The Broncos, the Browns, the Dolphins, the Giants, and the Jaguars, they also appear to have done very well in the draft, and they kind of improved their chances for this coming season. Of course, almost every team improved in some way if you look at it. But you know what? The Packers, they appear to be a totally different story as far as that's concerned. So, just some thoughts, some ideas, because now that the draft is over, we're trying to think about the futures market, trying to think of who's going to be winning the Super Bowl or their totals, their game totals, as far as that's concerned. So that's the story with the NFL. We're kind of running out of time. I really wanted to get that in. I was going to talk about the National Hockey League as far as looking towards injuries. How do you play injuries? Is it that important? I promise you, hockey guys out there, I'll do it tomorrow. I'd like to keep the show around 40, 41 minutes. I just feel that anything more than that, you kind of lose value in it because, you start thinking about other things and it becomes repetitious after a while. So anyway, that's the story for today. Once again, I just want to remind everybody, if you're interested in getting involved in our newsletter that we're thinking about, okay, send us an email. We're just looking to see how much interest we have, okay? If you do, you send the email to thesportswageringzone@gmail.com. That's thesportswageringzone@gmail.com. You don't have to say anything about how you like the show or hate the show. You can if you want to. Don't misunderstand me. But just want to know, yes, I would like to get involved, and that's all I need to know. We get enough people involved, we'll definitely do it because, we've got to start getting up earlier in the morning to do some of this stuff. So anyway, that's the story for today. So, hey, it's Wednesday. It's hump day. I hope you have a great day today. You guys out on the left coast, you're just getting started. Here on the East Coast, well, got half the day's already gone already. So, but hopefully we're looking forward to a beautiful day. And if you're going to be betting, I hope you have a profitable day as well. That's very important. So I hope you have a beautiful, a very good day. but even more so, I hope you have a profitable day as well. So just a reminder, we're here every day, Monday through Friday, 12 noon Eastern Time. Saturdays and Sundays, 11 a.m. Eastern Time. So that's the story for today. The three games we picked, looking at today, not that we picked, but the pros picked. White Sox against the Reds. They like the Reds. The Astros game's already started. Astros against the Yankees. They like the Yankees. Toronto against Oakland. They like Oakland in that situation. By the way, we didn't have time. We should have talked about it, but we will tomorrow again, bring you up to date. But the total so far, if you would have been betting those games that we've been talking about, you'd be at 56.4%. That's how well that little system has been working so far. Could change tomorrow. Anyway, thanks for listening. We'll be back again tomorrow, 12 noon Eastern Time. Until then, like I said, have a very pleasant Wednesday, hump day, and also have a very profitable one as well. So until tomorrow at noon, have a beautiful day. See you tomorrow at 12 noon. Goodbye, everybody.